Stop for a moment, because what I am about to say is not for everyone. It is for you. You have felt the weight of being overlooked, and you have wondered whether the silence around you meant absence or protection. It did not happen by chance that this message found you now, because the answer you have been waiting for is already forming in the quiet places of your life. You have carried rejection in ways other people never noticed. You smiled at the table, answered messages, kept your pace in the hallway, and still felt that something in you was standing outside the room. The chair beside you was occupied, the kettle was boiling, the phone was lighting up, and yet your chest stayed tense as if it knew a truth your mouth had not said. That is how the chosen often feel before they understand the pattern. They keep moving through ordinary places while something deeper presses on the inside. You were not made fragile by mistake. You were being made alert. This is why your spirit has not settled for the easy explanation. You are not hearing a random echo of disappointment, and you are not carrying a common bruise that time will simply erase. What has been happening around you is revealing what has been happening within you. And by the end of this, you will recognize the signs, the pressure, the delay, and the hidden mercy threaded through all of it. You will see why some doors did not open. You will see why some people could not stay. You will see why your inner life became quieter while the outer world kept demanding noise. And you will see that the answer of God does not arrive late in the way people think. Picture yourself standing at the sink after a long day, water running over your hands, while the room stays still behind you. The soap leaves a small shine on the porcelain, the dish towel hangs crooked on the oven handle, and your shoulders feel older than the day should have made them. You know that feeling, the one where you look at a normal room and sense that something inside you has changed places. You are not dramatic for noticing it, you are discerning it. There are moments when a kitchen, a bedroom, or a parked car becomes a witness to what your heart can no longer ignore. That sensitivity is not weakness, even when people call attention. You need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment. It is the mark of someone who notices what others pass over. Someone whose inner hearing has become too refined to survive pretending. You may have spent years trying to make yourself smaller so others would not feel threatened, and that habit left your body carrying a kind of silent tiredness. Your eyes stayed open at night, your breathing stayed shallow, and your hands kept reaching for tasks because stillness felt too revealing. Even your silence began to sound like a prayer, and because of that, you were often misunderstood by people who only trusted what was loud. But heaven does not measure you by the volume of your explanation. What has opposed you has rarely looked dramatic. It has looked like delay that kept pretending to be wisdom, distraction that wore the costume of necessity, and comparison that whispered while you were trying to rest. You answered the call, you checked the message, you did the work, and still the atmosphere around you felt slightly off, as if something was leaning against your door without entering. You felt that tension in the chest when a room no longer matched your peace. That is not paranoia. It is the body keeping score while the spirit tries to stay faithful. You are not failing at calm. You are being trained to discern what did not belong. There is a reason the old story of Joseph keeps reaching people like you when life seems delayed. He was not abandoned in the pit, and he was not forgotten in the house that could not hold his future. He was being carried through a process that looked like absence from one angle and formation from another. The same thing can happen in your life when what appears to be a closed route is actually a preserved path. Your family may not see it. Your co-workers may not know it. But you know what it cost you to keep your heart soft while carrying things you could not name. That is where God often begins to speak most clearly. If you keep pretending nothing is happening, you will call confusion by the name of normal. You will keep repeating patterns that leave you drained, and you will blame your sensitivity instead of learning from it. The more you ignore the signal, the louder the inner noise becomes, until even rest feels crowded. You already know what that does to your sleep, to your patience, and to the way you answer people when they ask if you are fine. There is a quiet cost to living against what you know is true. And the cost is not only emotional, it touches obedience. And this is why the signs around you deserve to be read, not dismissed. The sudden drop in your shoulders, the strange peace that arrived after a hard conversation, the way certain invitations lost their shine, the way a room felt different when someone left, all of it can be part of the same confirmation. Sit with that for a moment. If even one of those signs landed in you, type 888 in the comments, and let that simple agreement name what your heart already recognized. It is a small act, but it is a real one. Type 888, then come back to me, because what follows is deeper than the sign and closer than the noise. What you are facing is not only outside you. The real pressure has also moved through your inner life, through the places where fear learned to speak in your own voice. You may have called it caution when it was really hesitation, or called it wisdom when it was really the need to be safe from disappointment. That is where the deeper pattern begins to show itself. The chosen often do not struggle because they lack direction. They struggle because they have been trained to survive too long under old expectations. The root is often the fear of being seen clearly after being misunderstood for so long. You start to hold your breath before you speak. You start to explain yourself before anyone has asked. You start to wait for permission from voices that were never assigned to approve your life. That is why a quiet room can feel heavier than a crowded one. You are not just hearing thoughts. You are hearing the old architecture of approval trying to keep you in place. And God is not cruel for exposing it. He is merciful. There are days when your mind argues, your body tightens, and your spirit knows before either of them can finish speaking. You sit in the car with both hands on the wheel, and the sentence rises inside you, "This is not peace." You stand in the grocery line, look at the faces around you, and feel the contrast between outer routine and inner unrest. That contrast matters. Anxiety can be loud, but discernment is often clear. And when you stop confusing them, you begin to understand that not every discomfort is a warning against the path. Some discomfort is the sound of an old self losing its authority. Some environments resist your change because your change interrupts what they depended on. Certain conversations pull you back into the version of yourself that learned to survive by shrinking. Certain rooms ask for a performance that your spirit no longer wants to give. You notice it in the way your jaw tightens before a visit, in the way your breathing changes before a call, in the way your heart goes quiet when someone starts speaking only in expectation. That is not you becoming difficult. That is you becoming clear, and clarity is often mistaken for distance by people who benefited from your confusion. The opposition knows it cannot always stop you directly, so it tries to tire you first. It fills the day with small urgencies, little distractions, and unfinished thoughts that never let your spirit settle long enough to hear itself. It tells you to respond now, decide now, fix now, prove now, while the deeper thing in you is asking for patience. The result is a life that feels busy but not aligned. You keep moving, but you do not feel carried. You keep answering, but you do not feel known. That is how delay becomes a disguise when it is allowed to rule your attention. There comes a moment when the chosen stop, negotiating with what has already been revealed. You do not need another sign to keep obeying what you already know. You do not need every person to understand the weight you carry before you move. The tension in your chest is not there to imprison you. It is there to tell the truth before your words have learned how. And once you stop arguing with the signal, you begin to step into the deeper image that has been with you all along. It is like a seed held under the soil, not because it was forgotten, but because it was being kept. The ground looks silent, but inside it the work is hidden and steady. You have had seasons like that, when nothing visible seemed to happen while everything essential was being formed. The seed does not ask the earth for applause. It receives what it needs and keeps becoming. That is your life in a season that looked like delay from the outside and preservation from the inside. You know what it is to feel buried in responsibilities that do not explain themselves. The bills on the counter, the laundry chair in the corner, the half-finished notes on the desk, the unanswered message glowing on the screen, all of it can feel like proof that you are behind. But the deeper truth is that hiddenness is not always rejection. Sometimes it is the only place where roots can go deep enough to hold what is coming. You were not left in the dark because you were worthless. You were covered because your growth required weight, moisture, and time. And your body has known this before your mind could name it. Your shoulders have carried that low pressure of being unseen while still expected to produce. Your throat has tightened around words you never got to say. Your hands have kept busy because stopping would have made the ache louder. That is why this image of the seed matters so much. It explains the sacred contradiction of being held and hidden at the same time. Not every buried thing is lost. Some things are protected by the very earth that covers them. The old interpretation said that silence meant nothing. The new revelation says silence can mean preparation. The old interpretation said that waiting was proof that no one cared. The new revelation says waiting may be the space where care is most active. You do not have to force your way out of the soil by panic. You do not have to call every closed lid a prison. Some lids keep the heat in long enough for life to gather courage, and that is why your next step matters more than your next complaint. If you are still following the movement of this seed, then listen closely, because the image is changing now. The hard shell is not the final word. The ground does not get the last sentence. Something under pressure begins to split, not into damage, but into emergence. You can feel that in the way certain old fears have already started to lose their grip. They are not gone by accident. They are weakening because what is inside you is beginning to move. There is a quiet moment when the soil gives way and the first breath reaches what was covered. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is the kind of movement most people miss because they are looking for spectacle rather than life. But you have felt that small inner lift, that subtle relief when you realized one of your burdens did not belong to you forever. You stood in the bedroom, looked at the light on the wall, and knew that something in you had turned. That is the moment when the seed stops being only hidden and starts becoming visible. The enemy of that moment is not always destruction. Sometimes it is premature exposure, the rush to force open what should mature in darkness. That is why the timing matters. A seed pulled up too soon does not become free, it becomes fragile. A heart forced too quickly into public answers can lose the tenderness it needed to carry wisdom. You are being taught the difference between unveiling and rushing, between release and panic. And that difference will save you more than one argument ever could. Listen to what is happening in your own body as this becomes clear. The breathing that was shallow begins to deepen. The hands that kept clenching begin to rest. The mind that kept trying to explain everything begins to admit, almost reluctantly, that the pattern has been real all along. That admission is not defeat. It is the first honest step into alignment. And once honesty enters, the whole field changes. You stop calling every closed thing a loss and start asking what is being protected inside it. If that image is landing in a place you can feel but not fully explain, type the words "Eu vejo isso" in the comments. Let the recognition settle where it landed. Writing those words is not a performance. It is a witness to the moment when your spirit recognized its own reflection. Type it, then come back to me, because the story does not end at recognition. It moves into response. Now the question is not whether you saw it. The question is what you will do with what you saw. A hidden thing has been revealed, and revelation always asks for a response. You may feel the quiet pull to go back to old habits, because old habits are familiar, but familiar is not the same as faithful. You have reached the place where your life can no longer be guided only by what feels known. It must be guided by what is true. That is the threshold you have been standing near. This is why the next days may feel unusually simple and unusually serious at the same time. You may find yourself checking your phone less, leaving some messages unanswered longer, and feeling less interested in being pulled into conversations that drain your peace. A room that used to fit may begin to feel too small for the person you are becoming. That does not mean you are becoming proud. It means your spirit is no longer willing to make peace with what empties it. The shift is not loud, but it is real. One practice matters here. Begin the morning by sitting still before your day speaks to you. Let your hands stay open for a moment, let your breathing slow, and notice what rises before the noise starts. There is a kind of morning silence that tells the truth better than 10 explanations later in the day. When you give that silence to God, you are not doing nothing. You are letting your inner life arrive before your responsibilities scatter it. And in that space, you learn how to recognize what is yours and what is not. Another practice matters just as much. Pause before you answer what drains you. A message, a request, an invitation, a familiar demand can all pull at you, and your old self will want to react immediately. But now you are allowed to ask whether the response will keep your peace or fracture it. That pause is not avoidance. It is stewardship. It protects what is being formed in you from being spent too soon on what never deserved that energy. What has been closed around you is not always punishment. Sometimes it is protection with a stern face. Sometimes the road is narrowed so that your attention cannot wander. Sometimes a delay is the only thing standing between you and a choice made under pressure. You have lived enough of this to know the difference between a door that is sealed because it is not yours and a door that is sealed because the timing is still maturing. Wisdom learns to wait without becoming passive. And waiting is different now because it is no longer empty. It has become intentional. You are not waiting for permission from people who could never grant what heaven already assigned. You are waiting with a cleaner heart, a clearer chest, and a quieter need to prove yourself. That is how restraint becomes strength. That is how the same room that once felt like a cage can become a place of formation. The difference is not the room. The difference is who you are becoming inside it. You already know that there are days when your face shows calm while your body carries a private storm. The jaw locked too long, the eyes tired before noon, the shoulders lifted high without reason. All of these are telling you that the old pattern wants to return. But now you are learning not to obey every internal alarm as if it were a master. Some alarms are only memories. Some are warnings. Discernment separates them. And when discernment grows, your peace stops being stolen by every passing noise. There are moments when you will need to choose the quieter road, even if no one claps for it. You will need to leave some conversations without explaining yourself fully. You will need to let some doors remain closed without calling that loss. You will need to believe that being misunderstood for a season is not the same as being abandoned. Those choices do not make you smaller. They make you free. And freedom often looks at first like restraint. If this is confirming something that has already been moving in you, let your like be your amen without words, not as a metric, as agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Let it stand as a quiet gesture, a small way of saying that your heart recognized the sound of truth. Then stay with me, because the next part is where this recognition reaches beyond you and becomes delivery for someone else. There is someone in your life who came to mind while these words were reaching you, someone quietly tired, someone who keeps working hard while feeling unseen, someone whose posture looks steady, but whose silence has grown heavier than their speech. You know that kind of face, even if you have not said the concern out loud. Share this with them, not as a recommendation and not as an attempt to fix them, but as a delivery that arrives by appointment. Maybe that person is the one who keeps showing up for everyone else, while privately wondering why their own door still feels shut. Maybe it is the one who has learned to smile in public and process grief in private. Maybe it is the one who looks strong because they have had to look strong, not because they feel strong. That person does not need noise, they need recognition. And sometimes the simplest way love travels is through a message that says, I saw you in this. You are not only learning how to receive, you are learning how to become a bearer of what is clean and timely. That is what makes sharing different from broadcasting. This is not about spreading content. It is about placing a word in the hands of someone who is already carrying too much alone. The moment you do that, the message becomes more than information. It becomes care. And care has a shape. It reaches toward the one who has been standing at the edge of the room, waiting to know whether what they feel is real. It reaches toward the one who has been praying in silence because words have become too expensive. It reaches toward the one whose strength has been performing while their heart has been asking for rest. When you share with that person, you are not interrupting their privacy. You are honoring their hidden struggle with something gentle and true. Before this closes, type the words "Eu sou escolhido" in the comments, not as a wish, as confirmation. What has been forming through the whole message is not a fantasy about status. It is the quiet recognition that you belong to God in a way rejection could not erase. Type it slowly and let your fingers agree with what your spirit has been learning. The reason this matters is that identity is the last thing the enemy wants you to settle. A confused heart can be steered by every voice. A named heart begins to stand differently. When you write those words, you are not pretending to be stronger than you are. You are answering the question that rejection tried to ask over your life. You are saying that the answer has changed. This is what the whole path has been doing. It began with the ache of being overlooked, moved through the tension of the body, entered the hidden pattern of delay, and kept going until the seed image made sense of your waiting. Now the pieces are not random anymore. The closed door, the unusual quiet, the uncomfortable clarity, the growing refusal to settle, all of it belongs to the same mercy. You can look back and see that the soil was never empty. It was holding. And because it was holding, you were not ruined by what covered you. You were shaped by it. The very pressure that once felt like proof of loss now appears as the condition under which something strong was formed. That does not erase the ache. It explains it. And explanation can be a kind of healing when the soul has been carrying a story that was too small for what really happened. So receive this with calm. You are not too late. You are not overlooked. You are not stranded where the answer cannot reach you. The answer of God has been moving through what looked sealed. The seed is not ashamed of the soil that kept it. The seed is glad for the season that taught it how to endure long enough to become visible. You are being confirmed. You are being steadied. You are being returned to the place where fear no longer defines your timing. You are being given back the peace that panic tried to scatter. You are being taught to recognize the difference between delay and denial, between silence and absence, between covering and rejection. You are not being asked to chase your worth. You are being asked to stand inside it. And there are others right now, across different rooms, different streets, different nights, receiving the same quiet recognition. Some are reading this with tired eyes. Some are hearing it while washing dishes or sitting in parked cars or lying awake beside a phone that will not explain the ache. They are not less real because they are unseen. They are part of the same movement of return. What is being spoken over you is not isolated. It is shared in the hidden places where God still answers. So keep what has been entrusted to you. Do not throw it away because it arrived gently. Do not dismiss it because it came through quiet words. Hold the sign, hold the lesson, hold the shift, and let the old story lose its claim. You were not rejected beyond repair. You were being prepared for a recognition deeper than applause. You were being taught how to hear the answer before the crowd ever noticed the door. You are remembered. You are covered. You are not behind the schedule of grace. You are not too far for mercy to reach. You are being called back into alignment with what is true, and that return is already changing the air around you. Let your chest soften where it has been braced. Let your breath deepen where it has been held. Let your mind stop calling every delay a verdict. Let your heart know that a closed season can still be a holy season. Let your spirit stand where it was, once unsure, and feel how steadiness arrives without noise. Let the quiet confirm you. Let the waiting teach you. Let the hidden work remain honored. Let the answer of God remain larger than the insult of rejection. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not unloved. You are being led where the old voice cannot follow, and what was sealed has already begun to open, and all that remains is to walk gently into what has returned. It is sealed. Hoke. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.